as the Blues Brothers would say, you, me, everybody, we all seem to have some trauma or other hanging around. What is trauma? It's an emotional snag. It's some event in our lives that has happened to us that has resulted in our emotions not flowing freely. It can be a childhood event, an adult event. It's simply something we can't get past or let go of or forget. The problem there is we can become slaves to our trauma. We can become slaves to our past. Traumas can be the lens through which we experience life. It can literally become our story until we become trapped in the trauma and unable to grow outside it or become more than what our trauma had us be. We become stuck as the people in our past. So how do we overcome trauma? First, we've got to accept it happened. Like any addiction, overcoming it, first we've got to accept that it happened, that it's real. Trauma is seductive because it leaves us with the potential for a why me or oh woe is me story, which is great for gathering sympathy and having people feel sorry for us. But it's not wonderful when we're trying to become more aware of ourselves, who we are and what we are, and trying to become more whole as people and live happier, more contented and fulfilled lives. I have feelings I associate with an event. Those feelings are hanging around my neck like a millstone because they've been there since the event. Now that could be a childhood trauma, that could be a recent adult trauma, it could be a trauma that I've learned from my family. So it can be an ancestral, familial trauma. It doesn't matter where it came from. It matters first that it's there. Second, that I control it because I control how I feel. I choose how I feel. I get to sit with this particular event or this way of being and understand it, becoming aware of how the trauma has affected me, how it's made me perhaps defensive, perhaps aggressive. We've got to take all these things and understand our trauma, understand what it's doing to us, so that in understanding it, I can now begin to take away any power it's got over me. Because trauma has power as long as I give it power, as long as I continue to ascribe a way of being with a past event. It is still happening to me today, and I need the trauma to stop happening to me. So I have to change how I feel today. And that allows me to reach back into my memory, to reframe whatever the event was. Not to lie to myself, not to invent a rose-tinted version of events, but rather to look at how I felt at the time, what happened at the time, how other people behaved at the time. Can I change those feelings? Yes, I can, by being aware of the feelings that I had, that others had, maybe even just accepting that they did what they did because they didn't know any better. And I behaved as I behaved because I didn't know any better. This helps me to see that the other person in a situation, the person maybe who caused me trauma, no longer governs me. I govern me. I get to decide how I feel about them. Being aware of those feelings allows me to have compassion for myself, compassion for them. Much and all as that might not be the easiest thing in the world to realize, is that you need to have compassion for everybody in the trauma, because nobody got out whole. Nobody at all. Everybody's carrying something from an event. You might be carrying pain, somebody else is carrying guilt. Compassion. It helps us to iron out the wrinkles. Then I choose to render that event as inert as possible. I'm simply accepting that it's done. It can't be altered. Only in how I choose to see it, how I choose to react to it. And if I choose not to react to it, that will allow me to put the event to bed and simply say, I'm drawing a line under this. It's done with. I'm no longer feeling resentment, mistrust, anger, frustration, shame, guilt, whatever the feeling is, whatever negative thing that you're carrying forward in that trauma, that you've been carrying around like luggage all your life. Putting down the luggage today. I'm simply saying that from today, that event is not being given the weight or the honor of determining how I feel about it. I'm going to take control here, and I'm determining how I feel about that particular event or series of events. I can't change them. I can be honest with myself, not trying to rewrite it as a lie, to tell myself that I'm not governed by it, to tell myself that I am going to make conscious choices in future events that fly in the face of what the trauma taught me, that those new events will not be governed by memories of past trauma, that I will take them on the merit of the event itself. It might be a new relationship. You had a traumatic breakup. Doesn't mean that the next relationship is going to be traumatic. Maybe you lent money to a friend and they ran away with it. Doesn't mean that the next time you lend money to a friend that they're going to run away with it. So in order to rewrite our trauma, in order to heal from our trauma, we need to firstly acknowledge it. Secondly, sit with it for long enough to see what it actually was, not what we took from it. Understand the parts of all the players with compassion, with honesty, and then to make choices based on those acceptances. And those choices will inform our outcomes from today onward. Accepting that there's not a damn thing I can do about last time. There's nothing I can do about my childhood now. The fact that I am here means I have survived that trauma. But surviving trauma isn't good enough. The quality of living demands that I have a quality of life. Having a quality of life means having more to my life than just survival. There has to be joy, there has to be peace, there has to be happiness, contentment, there has to be trust, there has to be empathy, there has to be love. I'm banging on about love again, and will continue to do so. The only way that we get to have those things is by facing those traumas, not in an adversarial way, in a compassionate and understanding way. We don't face them head on. We don't come at them like a bull in a china shop. We invite them to tea. We sit down, have a cuppa, We talk to trauma to find out exactly what did happen and why it happened and how it makes you feel. And then you simply understand that I'm not feeling that way anymore. I'm not giving that to it. So from here on, I get to choose a new way of reconciling my emotions with that event. And the reconciling is simply, it happened. I'm not giving it any more honor nor weight in my future decisions than that. I understand that it happened. And for once, I can use that to my benefit. Because I can always understand the signs of that trauma may be about to happen again. And sidestep it, because I'm not paralyzed by fear, nor anger, nor resentment. I am aware, awake. That's how we overcome our trauma.